Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
We want to thank our show sponsor, the University of Alaska. You can check them out at empower.alaska.edu. Thank you so much for the University of Alaska for sponsoring the Must Read Alaska show.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the Must Read Alaska show. I'm your host, John Quick, coming to you live from somewhere in Alaska. And I want to thank everybody who listens, watches, and reads Must Read Alaska. If you want to help keep the lights on here, go to mustreadalaska.com. On the right-hand side, there is a donate button. Every $5, $10, $100 at a time helps keep the lights on here at Must Read Alaska. And we are not funded by some dark web nonprofit money conglomerate. We're just funded by everyday Alaskans that care about conservative news. So if that is you, we want to thank you for doing that. And without further ado, we have a very special guest today, somebody who has spoken all over the U.S. He is Instagram famous, but he's also famous just for sticking up for freedom. And he cares about the U.S. and it's succeeding. So without further ado, welcome to the Must Read Alaska show. I'm gonna call you by your name on your Instagram, DC Drano.
Hello, my fellow Americans way up north. It is an honor and a privilege to be on the show. Thank you.
It's so good to have you. This is Suzanne Downing, publisher of Must Read Alaska, jumping in as a co-host today. And normally those who listen to the Must Read Alaska show typically are used to hearing John Quick on the show because he's basically now anchoring the Must Read Alaska show. And John, thanks for letting me kind of butt in today. Because when Ryan McGee, who's the president of Alaska Young Republicans, asked me if we wanted to have Rogan O'Handley, DC Drano, on the show, I said, no, absolutely not. I'll faint. I can't do that. So we're so excited to have you on the show. And for those of you who didn't read about it already, because as like I said, when Ryan told me that you were coming to Alaska, I said, well, can I publish that today then, please? And he said, no, hold off for a little bit. And you're the keynote speaker at a couple of big events in June. One is out in Settlers Bay, which if you haven't been there and you just told me you haven't, you're going to love it. It's a gorgeous golf course, like in the middle of the Matsu Valley and the mountains that surround it. And you're just going to fall in love and want to buy a piece of property and move to Alaska and take over Must Read Alaska. And then there's a second event in Anchorage, which is our largest city, of course, and downtown Anchorage. And I am going to be at both of those events, everybody. So I hope that you will check out our Facebook page, because I'm going to post these as notices there, and so that you can know where to get tickets. But first of all, so Rogan, you must be Gaelic or Irish or something. Your name is a little bit of a tell.
Yeah, Rogan O'Handley, originally from the Boston area. So, my mom was pretty upset when I ended up moving to go to law school in Chicago. She's like, you were born for a city like this. How could you leave? And, it was a little tough growing up with that name. They called me Rogaine. But I love it now because, the two Rogans, Joe Rogan and me, I think we're doing okay for the name.
Yeah, you guys are representing. That's absolutely true. And so you went to Hollywood and you became an attorney to the movie stars. But at some point, you made this sort of a switch went on in your head or something. You just said, "I've got to do something about the way that this country is going," and you changed.
Oh, it was a very big life change, and sometimes I look back and wonder what I was thinking, but a lot of it has to do with faith. And so, I was an entertainment lawyer in Los Angeles. I was working on movie deals, Will Ferrell, Seth Rogen, he's one of the bad Rogans, and did LeBron James deals, Selena Gomez, I was effectively living a dream. But as we've seen, Hollywood has gotten so woke, and I was there, 2010, 2011. It wasn't as terrible as it is now. And once President Trump won the election, I wanted to support the president of the United States. And if I said anything on Facebook, I got unfollowed, I got berated, harassed. And, in my career in Hollywood, if you were right of communist, you'd get blackballed. I mean, you have to toe the line very carefully there because it's a small world. And so I created this anonymous Instagram account, DC Drano, which stands for Draining the DC Swamp, because I just wanted to get my voice out there. And I thought memes were the most effective form of political communication. And at about 50,000 followers, which was 6 months later, I was presented with a very big dilemma. I knew that the account was getting so big that people were going to eventually find out. And I also was presented with a offer to be a partner at a law firm, a competitor law firm, and they offered me $500,000. And I just knew that one of these was going to get destroyed. And so I had to pick one. And so I picked posting memes on Instagram, and I moved to Florida, sold my house, and here I am today.
So Rogan, recently on your Instagram, you posted a clip of Tucker Carlson on the Full Send podcast, and Tucker made some interesting comments in the weeks leading up to his departure on Fox News. Was that we're all ran by a handful of people in the world kind of controlling everybody, and that news is just one big propaganda machine. What's your take on that, having spoken all over the U.S., shaking hands with influential people? What do you think about that?
Well, I'm really looking forward to shaking the hands of Alaskans, because it's, in my opinion, Alaskans embody what America truly is, a courageous spirit, living out, farther in the wilderness, not as close to everything, roughing it through tough winters. So I'm really looking forward to that. But Tucker Carlson, I think he has really awakened, like millions of other Americans, and pretty much in the Trump era, to the corruption in our media, the corruption in our government, the corruption in our own Republican Party, the corruption in our medical institutions, in our courts, in our election systems. And I think Tucker Carlson, who has been in the mainstream media for 20 plus years. A lot of people forget he actually once worked for CNN and MSNBC back
and
before
PBS.
And PBS, and so it's especially tough for him. He's got so much, kind of money and networking on the line, and he started to take a more courageous path towards telling the truth. And he said that he regrets being a part of the propaganda machine, effectively the mainstream media networks that pushed the Iraq war and that are now pushing the Ukrainian war. And I actually was up at Tucker's studio in Maine. He invited me up for a 1-hour interview last summer.
Oh
and
man, I
he
bet
brought
that
me
was
up.
awesome.
It is the coolest barn I've ever been to. It's in the middle of nowhere. You would never know it's Tucker. It's kind of secret on purpose, but it is the coolest barn. It's got, a bar. It's got all these cool books and memorabilia, and then like a gorgeous studio. And he, basically told me he brought me on because he was really interested in my position on the Ukraine war, which, I spoke at CPAC the day Putin invaded, and I said, hey, this is not our war. Yes, it's terrible that he invaded, but we should not get involved. No more Iraq boondoggles, sending our American sons and daughters to die. And more importantly for Alaska, you're right across a small body of water from a nuclear superpower that, Alaska is probably the first one to be invaded. So I'm pretty sure Alaskans are a lot more hesitant about Ukraine involvement, but I'm looking forward to hearing what people say.
So what's your advice to folks? You had that kind of parting of the seas, if you will, in your life, that you made a decision. You had two paths in front of you and you chose this path. But what's your advice to folks who they just don't know how to take the step, or they're scared, or they're fearful, or what's their employer going to say, or what's their friends going to say? What's your advice to somebody who's used to just kind of being quiet and not doing anything, but they want to?
I was the exact same way. I was used to being quiet, and I certainly was nervous about putting my thoughts out there. A couple things. One, I have learned myself and from seeing other people do it that once you dip your toe in, you get comfortable real quick, and you never jump back out of that water. Once you're fully in the fight, you get comfortable quick, because this to me is a battle of good versus evil right now. This isn't Republican versus Democrat. It's good people versus bad people. Not necessarily, on the other side. I think it's the people at the top on both sides in many instances, the corruption. So what I would recommend, for me, I liked posting memes. I just like memes. I think they're funny. I think they're short, bite sized. Some people like podcasts. You're really good at podcasting. This is a great fit for you. Some people like writing op-eds. Some people want to go knock doors for candidates. Some people want to run for office. Some people just want to donate. There is a way for all of us with any skill level to be involved. I just recommend that you find what you're most comfortable with that fits into your schedule, and to dive in head first, get involved, and I promise you will learn so much more about other opportunities and meet so many great people, and you'll just feel fulfilled. I'm truly happy doing what I do every day, and that's something that I didn't used to feel. So I want it for everybody, and I want patriots across this country to get involved, because if we don't, our country is going to be taken over by Marxism.
How where do you think, speaking on that last sentence, where do you think we're headed? We got election in 2 years. We got, the media's got Trump versus DeSantis, war happening on Fox News every day. Are we going to die in a pile, or do you think there's hope for us?
There's still hope. There's always hope with God and with Jesus. That is something that I rely on, and it's something I have full faith in this path, that even though I can't see what's going to happen, God's going to take care of me and so many others. And it's I was at a fundraiser in Miami last year for Blake Masters' campaign, and it was at Peter Thiel's house, who is got more involved in the 2022 midterms. He financed JD Vance, he financed Blake Masters, and some other causes. He said, and I was kind of surprised at this at the time, because he was on the Facebook board. He isn't anymore, but he said, we have about 2 to 3 years left to save this country from Marxism before we're irreversibly entrenched. And I think that coincides with the 2024 election. Obviously, we saw what happened in 2020 with the irregularities, I'll say, because I don't know what platform this will be published on. And President Trump is our greatest hope. And we're lucky. We have Governor DeSantis, and he's, in my opinion, the best guy for 2028. I know some people disagree and they want it for 2024. But if we do not win this next election, if we do not overwhelm the fraud and ballot harvest harder and stronger than the Democrats, then I am worried that we could be thrust into World War III, because these people are so corrupt and they will try to keep power at any cost. And if they have 8 years, they will send us into very dark times.
What's let's say you had a time machine and go back to when you were 18 years old. What's something you wish you would have known or done back then that you did, that you now have the experience to look back and think about and gauge?
Yeah, the first thing I would have done is bought Bitcoin. I think I was a little too young even for the bottom of Bitcoin, but it's interesting. I think education is such an important weapon in this fight, and I am actually pretty happy I went to law school, because even though I'm not a practicing lawyer, understanding how the Constitution is supposed to work, understanding the legal system. The pen is mightier than the sword. And there's a reason that they censor us a lot more than they've tried to seize the guns, because words are the most powerful weapon to stop corruption, exposing the truth. And so my advice to people would be to get smart on the Constitution, get smart on the daily events. It's not that difficult to get a little bit of background, and just know when the media is trying to lie to you, when our health officials are trying to lie to you, when our politicians are lying to us. And that's the best advice I could give, especially to young people, is read and learn about this stuff, because they're very smart people trying to deceive others.
So you're coming up to Alaska for an event. Tell us a little bit about that. We're at the 20-minute mark, so I want to be respectful of your time, but tell folks, they're going to listen to this and think, oh crap, Rogan's coming to Alaska. This is awesome. So tell folks about why you're coming up, what you're doing, and how folks could maybe come if there's an open event or not.
Yeah, so I get involved with my local region in Florida. I speak at all types of events: high schools, colleges, mom groups, women's Republican groups, young Republicans. In this particular event, we're working with the Alaska Young Republicans. I think the Young Republicans are such a powerful, influential group. And I connected with them at a Turning Point event, and we just thought this would be such a great idea to have me come up and to meet people. And what I want to get out of this, I have not been to Alaska. As an American, I'm excited to see the beauty of this state. But I want to talk with the people. I want to get a sense on the ground what they are concerned with, because what I try to do is be a voice for the forgotten people of this country, especially the hardworking middle class, which is what I grew up in. My dad's a fireman, my mom's a teacher, and that's the backbone of America. And I think if you want to talk about forgotten people, way up there, you guys don't get as big a seat at the table as you should. And so what I hope to do is to talk with people and to bring back their concerns, not only to Florida, but to DC. I'm friends with a lot of congressmen. I post to a lot of followers every day. And if I can be a voice for the people of Alaska, especially when it comes to the energy industry and wildlife and fishing and, what's happening with Russia. I mean, these are very serious topics that, Alaskans need a voice, and you're, frankly, in my opinion, not getting it from Murkowski. So hopefully I can do a better job.
That's awesome. Well, Rogan, I thank you so much for joining us here on the Must Read Alaska show. Sorry for the technical difficulties on the front end, but we'll edit those out. We wish you nothing but success, and we want to thank Ryan for bringing you up here. We hope your events go well. And for folks that want to check out DC Drano, we'll put the links of all of his social media in the description for folks to check out. Rogan, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, I'm John Quick from somewhere in Alaska.
Thank you all. God bless.
Thanks, Rogan.
We want to thank our show sponsor, the University of Alaska. You can check them out at empower.alaska.edu. Thank you so much for the University of Alaska for sponsoring the Must Read Alaska show.